First at 4, we continue to learn more after the FBI says it stopped a potential terrorist attack in Michigan over Halloween weekend.
FBI Director Kash Patel said today that multiple people have been accused in planning the potential attacks. The details about the suspects and their alleged plans have not yet been made public. Federal agents were seen this morning on the east side of the state at 2 homes in Dearborn. The FBI's Detroit field office confirmed that agents were in Dearborn and Inkster, quote, conducting law enforcement activities, but they did not directly connect their presence to that potential terrorist attack.
Governor Whitmer says she was briefed about the situation from Director Patel and, quote, as details continue to develop, I'm grateful for the swift action of the FBI and MSP protecting Michiganders.
To get more insight on this potential terrorist attack, we're talking with Javed Ali, a former senior official at the National Security Council and professor at the University of Michigan. Professor, thank you so much for doing this for us today.
Rick, nice to be with you. Thank you for having me.
What do we know about this so far? They've called it a potential attack. What do we know, and how were federal agents able to find out about it and stop it?
So, Rick, there's a lot of detail that those of us on the outside of this investigation don't know yet. There is no formal indictment, as far as I know, that has been released or issued by the Department of Justice, which usually in the aftermath of arrests lays out the legal facts and the charges that defendants will then have to face. And the government, as we all know, bears the responsibility to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendants are guilty of those crimes, but we don't even have those details. And based on other media reporting, sounds like this was some type of ISIS or other jihadist, Islamic extremist jihadist inspired attack, but these were not, it doesn't appear to be people who are formal members of these jihadist groups overseas. It appears that a lot of these conversations were occurring online, but at some point along the way that whether it's undercover FBI or other state and local law enforcement got involved in monitoring those communications, or there was someone part of that chat group, and that apparently is how the thread got pulled on disrupting the plot and then arresting these individuals.
Have we seen other plots like this one in Michigan that have been discovered before?
Yeah, there's been, whether good news or bad news, but there's been a string of other jihadist-inspired plots like this, usually either with a single individual or sometimes a small group of people. So this is not over the years, and this is not uncommon. But the fact that we're here now in 2025 shows just how enduring that jihadist ideology persists, because this was the type of threat that I was confronting in my government career from 2002 to 2018, and I left FBI in 2018, and here we are now several years later, and you're seeing the exact same kind of thing. I think that once the facts come out, we'll probably learn that the similar kind of FBI and state and local law enforcement playbook was used once those individuals were identified, even online, to then learn more about who they were, build the case both from an intelligence perspective and a law enforcement criminal perspective, and then eventually make the decision to arrest them versus just watching the communication in virtually online, or even if they were meeting in person.
Professor, if I hear you correctly, some of these plots, perhaps this one we don't know, as you point out accurately, we don't have much information at all, but it isn't necessarily by people who have been raised in or know about this movement on a first-hand basis, but have been inspired, maybe even by postings on the internet or something like that. Is that what we think could be going on here?
Yeah, that's what appears to be happening here, and there is a track record of these similar types of what we would call homegrown violent extremist plots with individuals inspired first by Al-Qaeda ideology when Osama bin Laden was alive in the 2000s, up until the time of his death in May 2011, and then a couple years later when ISIS emerged on the scene in Iraq and Syria, that we've seen dozens, if not hundreds, of these types of cases in the United States. Obviously not just only in Michigan. In Michigan, there's probably been at least a handful of them. But this phenomena has been going back for 20 plus years. It consumed a lot of my attention when I was in government in different departments and agencies, and So apparently what we're seeing now is just yet another manifestation of the same kind of enduring threat that's been going on for years and years.
Yeah, I mean, this is like 25 years practically since we started seeing this. Is it growing, or is it staying about the same? Are there more instances now?
I would say it's actually it's not. They're not as they don't seem to be as many of these jihadist-inspired threats and plots that we've seen recently. Back when I was in government, there was a much larger number, which sparked so much concern in FBI when I was there, and even years before at the Department of Homeland Security. So we haven't seen as the same type of number, but it doesn't. The numbers don't really matter, because all it takes, unfortunately, is just one individual or a small group of individuals who are inspired, who actually are then try to mobilize in the real world and get offline to then act out violently. And in this case, it sounds like they may have been preparing for some kind of attack with small arms or weapons, either they illegally acquired or legally acquired. But that's also the same kind of fact pattern we've seen. And at the same time, as your viewers know, over the past few years in the U.S., we've seen another type of threat manifest here, where people who aren't necessarily inspired by the jihadist ideologies, but other extremist worldviews on the political spectrum, either on the left end of the spectrum or the far right end of the political spectrum. And the most recent tragic example was the shooting of Charlie Kirk in September of this year. So that's another dimension of this threat, that it's with these homegrown individuals. It's not just coming from the Islamic extremist aspect, it's coming from a whole different set of extremist worldviews and political ideologies.
And the good news is, at least for today, at least we believe this attempt has been thwarted. Professor Ali, we thank you so much for your time, and particularly for your insight, and thanks for joining us today.